All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going on a pretty wild ride through history to tell the story of the patterns on our fabrics. It's a journey that's going to take us across thousands of years and all over the globe, all to figure out how we got the prints we wear today.
Not really. Just stop for a second and think about the shirt you're wearing right now. That pattern, it didn't just magically appear. It is the end result of a 7,000-year-long story of art, technology, and trade. And that's exactly the story we're going to unpack.
So, where do we even start? Well, we have to go way, way back. Because long before we could print a pattern onto cloth, we first had to figure out how to make the cloth itself.
Now, what's just incredible here is the sheer timescale we're dealing with. 7,000 years ago, people in Egypt were already making fabrics. Then you jump to 3000 BC, and you've got cotton popping up in both India and Peru, two parts of the world that had absolutely no contact with each other. And soon after, China perfects silk. This was the blank canvas that started everything.
And this, right here, this is the key. It seems like as soon as we figured out how to weave, we immediately wanted to make it beautiful. Plain fabric just wasn't enough. There's this basic human need to add color, to add patterns, to add meaning. And that drive is what kicks off the next big leap.
So now we get to the first huge revolution in actually getting patterns onto fabric. We're not talking about weaving the designs in, but applying them right on top. Welcome to the age of block printing.
You know, the idea behind it is so beautifully simple, isn't it? It's basically a giant artistic stamp. You carve your design into a piece of wood, dip that block in some dye, and press it onto the cloth. So simple, but it was an absolute game changer for design.
And here you can see the actual tool. Just look at the craftsmanship in this thing. Every single one of those lines had to be carved out by hand with incredible patience. This one tool held all the potential for creating these amazing, complex patterns.
And when you break it down like this, you really appreciate the skill involved. You carve the block, you dip it, you press it, and then you do it again, and again, and again, hundreds, maybe thousands of times, making sure it lines up perfectly each time. It's just staggering.
And get this, this wasn't happening in just one spot. Way back in 2000 BC, you had people in Peru using clay cylinders to do this. Around the same time, Mexico was developing its own methods. But India became the absolute superstar of block printing, creating these vibrant fabrics that people all over the ancient world wanted to get their hands on.
Okay, so let's hit the fast forward button by a few thousand years. Because those amazing techniques from India, they're about to crash into Europe and spark a total cultural and economic firestorm. All of a sudden, ships started arriving in Europe with these incredible fabrics from India. They were colorful, they were cheap, the designs were complex, and people went absolutely nuts for them. They were called chintz, and they became a full-blown fashion craze.
Just look at these. The color, the detail in these Indian palampors. They're just stunning. And they were so popular, so much more exciting than what was being made locally, that they started to threaten the entire European textile business. Why buy boring local wool when you could have this?
So here's the big takeaway. This was more than a trend. It was one of the first big examples of global trade completely upending a local economy. European fabric makers had a simple choice: adapt or go out of business. So they started this frantic race to figure out how to copy the Indian styles. And that's what led directly to famous printing factories like Toile de Joux in France.
And this constant drive to produce more and to do it faster set the stage for the next great conflict. It was a showdown, really, between thousands of years of handcrafted art and the new raw power of the machine.
1785. Remember that year, because this is the moment when everything gets turned on its head. An invention comes along in England that yanks textile printing out of the small workshop and throws it onto the massive factory floor. And what a clash this created. On one side, you have roller printing. It's lightning fast, it's precise, and it can pump out miles of fabric. But it's industrial, it's mechanical. And then, about a century later, you get this huge artistic pushback. You have people like William Morris who completely reject the machine and argue for a return to handmade, artistic, nature-inspired designs. It's this amazing tension between industry and art that, honestly, we still see today.
And that whole push and pull, that tug of war between mass production and individual creativity, it brings us right to our own time, to the biggest, most disruptive revolution yet,
The one that finally, maybe, combines the speed of the machine with the soul of the artist.
I want you to just let that sink in for a moment. More significant than writing. More significant than printing itself. That is the insane scale of change that we are living through right now when it comes to design.
So why is it such a big deal? Well, digital tools give designers almost total freedom. You can play with colors and patterns endlessly without any cost. You can print just a few yards of something if you want, which was impossible before. And in our world today, a designer in London can see a trend from Seoul and be printing a fabric inspired by it that same day. The game has totally changed.
So that's where we'll leave it. We've gone from Egyptian flax fields to clay cylinders in Peru, from the markets of India to the factories of Europe, and now to the computer screen. It is an absolutely incredible story of human creativity. And after all that, it really makes you wonder, what on earth could possibly come next?